Howdy, lieutenants and economists.
The most volatile, evil, disgusting things on the planet, humans. If you have a video request, you can always go to assholeconsulting.com.
Yeah, I am gonna charge you, kids. And that is the importance of not fucking up.
You are such an asshole!
Hello, children. The old Capmeister here again with another original video. We're going to have a ton of original videos today. Finally cleaning out all that to-do list, man. We're going to cross a lot of those videos out. It's going to feel good. For some reason, over at Asshole Consulting, we've had a spate of career requests. And so this has come up multiple times, so I'm going to address it. Especially in light of the .com revolution version 2.0, because I know you may not have known this if you go back into your .com history. There was one .com bubble. We were there. Gen X was there. We saw it. It was the 90s. And unemployment also went down below 4%. And then the recession happened afterwards. And then a terrorist attack happened. Anyway, the point was there was a lot of startups, a lot of .com startups. And everyone was like, there was a switch. I remember there were articles being written that, did you know that all the Ivy League graduates don't want to work at Wall Street or the insurance field or the pharmaceutical industry? They're moving to .coms. And the reason why is there was unlimited growth potential. And you could work, this is a foreign concept, you could work in the field you got a degree in and do what you were trained to do. You got experience of what you were trained to do. That was the rare one, because everybody knows now the way college works post-boomers is you get a master's degree, you become an expert in this field, and then you go work in that field, but your job duties are like filing and faxing and shit you could have done in the 7th grade. But back then, you could actually go work for a startup, and you could use your degree, and you might even be challenged. You might even get new experiences, get work experience in new things that would help improve your resume. That lasted, I think, a whole year, maybe 6 months, and then the .coms crashed and everything, and everyone got laid off. There's a similar situation happening now, although there's always the opportunity, but with the FANGs and the social media, we essentially have this .com version 2.0, the next generation. By the way, I have construction going on. We're just going to bang it out this way. Where you might have the opportunity to go and work for a startup. And you might have an opportunity to go work for a new firm. And it's exciting and it's growing and you can start at the ground floor. And I'm here to tell you why you should not do that. Right? The reason you might think of doing that, the sales points, the pros of doing that, when you're getting interviewed by and it usually won't be the HR director, it'll be some high-level dude or dudette. You're like, wow, I'm actually being interviewed by this person. And instead of the HR person asking you questions about flowers and bees and unicorns and feelings, they're asking you questions about what you learn. And hey, do you know how to program Python? Do you know how to, what's your experience in networking computers and all that? And you're like, yeah, this is what I tried. I found my calling. That's about as good as it gets. Because there are some things wrong with startups, inherently fundamentally wrong with startups, which is why you don't want to work for them. So let's go over a couple things. All right. First, the vast majority of startups fail. They fail. You see on the internet the 1 out of thousands that made it. You see a Yahoo, and Yahoo is that's barely limping along. That's the sick one of their Twitter doesn't make money. Google was one of thousands. You don't remember, pets.com. You don't remember, what was it? The scores, the thousands of all these .com startups, publicly traded or not, that went absolutely nowhere. And even now today, as the old captain goes through his emails and his requests and all that, I have not had, now I'm thinking about, I don't have one story, one client, where I started working at the startup and then we grew and got promoted and I got more responsibilities and all that. It never happens. It's always, yeah, they lost funding and I got laid off or fired. Or more commonly, I got laid off or fired. I was yelled at because I wasn't performing as well. And then the company went bankrupt. And that is the more common one. I'd say it's infinitely more common because I've never heard a good success story of somebody working at a startup. So it is so statistically rare that your startup is going to work, is going to succeed, that it's just not worth the risk. Another reason related to it failing is, for the most part, startups are started by lazy people who don't want to work. Oh, there's some hardworking people. Oh, there's some smart people. But by and large, your startups are started by people who don't want to work. And they think, well, dude, I can do that. Or, here's another common instance, they're smart, they're willing to work, but they have no business sense whatsoever. Typically, you're geeks or your STEMs or your nerds, and you guys know I'm not a big fan of business. All right, I'm not a big fan of majoring in business. But there's something to be said for reading an income statement. There's something to be said for understanding the concept of a balance sheet and debt and equity. There's something to be said of understanding the concept of the difference between an income statement and a cash flow statement, because your accounts receivables and your accounts payables aren't matching up. Now, you may not understand that terminology, that's fine. But if you're going to go into business and you don't understand those simple 4 or 5 things I just said, no. And I saw it, man. I worked at .coms when I was in my 20s. And the CEOs, brilliant IT people perhaps, I don't deal with that financial. You take care of it. I was like, excuse me, I need your input. You are the leader. I can't make this decision without you. I don't deal with that. And so what you inevitably find is they may be hardworking when it comes to IT, although I'd say most of them got a degree on daddy's dime and then I'm just going to pop. And they literally think throwing money together, and they go program something, and then you people take care of the rest of it, and they don't lead. They don't invest. They don't put their time in. A real CEO works about 80 hours a week. A real CEO does. The vast majority of the startups, it's more of a hobby, it's more of a play toy. This even happened in the 90s. Back in the 90s. I remember it was really cool. Like, they'd have cool offices. We'd go into lofts, man, and then we'd have like hammocks, and there'd be video games, and there'd be beer. Oh, that's fun. That's fun for the 6 months that company will be open. But it shows me the CEO. I mean, I'm not against having hammocks or even beer in the office, and truthfully, I'd rather have an office that looks like that. Certainly better than cubes and having you kids all penned up in prison cells. But I never saw a serious CEO who was putting fun ahead of profit and the long-term profitability and survivability of the company. So your management is usually lazy at worst, incompetent at best. In either case, your company is not going to be around. Third reason not to work for a startup, it's going to be a mar on your resume. What will happen is these CEOs, the owners, the founders of startups are not only lazy, but they're very egotistical. And when they take their daddy's money or investors' money, they throw it to you people that do no leadership, they do not organize, they do no strategic planning. They're not there making sure this machine is working, and this machine inevitably starts to fail. They start blaming you guys who are busting your asses off. I know a lot of people at startups that are excited because they were doing what they love. They were actually using the skills they were trained in for college. And they're working and they're doing like this is great. And then the CEO will come in and yell at them, or the CFO will come in and yell at them. And the people are like, what? You told me to go do. And this is where you run into the psychopaths. This is where you run into the sadists. This is where you run into the megalomaniacs and the egomaniacs. These people like the idea of being profitable, and they have dreams of being rich. And when it just doesn't shit out from the sky, and they're all of a sudden looking at the prospect that they might lose money and they might lose their precious title. See, they didn't want to put in the time or the dues. They wanted to go straight from college or Daddy's Trust Fund to president and CEO so they could brag and I'm a president and CEO. Make out with me, baby. That's a lot what drives it, by the way. When their laziness doesn't materialize into wealth, their ineptitude, their incompetence doesn't result in profits, they blame you, because it can't possibly be them. And that has happened at pretty much every startup that has failed ever. And which is why when I get my clients over at assholeconsulting.com, the story has always been, I started working for a startup, my boss yelled at me, he was psycho, he'd tell me X, and then they wanted Y, there was no way. I worked weekends, you're all putting in your 80 hours, And then what they usually got a henchman or an enforcer kind of in there that says, you better get your game up. You don't know what you're doing. We want results. And then they're like, and then you get fired. Now, the problem with this is twofold. One, you think you did something wrong. You didn't. Now prove it to you why you didn't do anything wrong. So you think, oh my God, I failed. And usually you guys are fresh out of college, you're just starting your career, and you feel horrible, like somehow you failed. You put in all this effort and work, and that you are the one that failed. The second thing, what was the second thing? This now puts a mark on your resume, because you'll go work there about 6 months or so, and you'll just, by that time, you'll have had it. You'll be like, I can't do this anymore. And you'll either quit or you'll get fired. And now you got this gap on your resume to explain. Or you got a termination on your resume, which you have to explain. Of which I never list. You don't list companies that you worked at and you got fired, or you only worked there for a couple of months. Regardless, it puts you psychologically, especially if you're younger, you don't know what scumbags most people are in the corporate world. You actually start to feel bad about yourself. You feel like a failure. And now you have this black mark on your resume, or your CV, as you guys over in Europe with your programmies and your labourers like to say. What you don't realize, though, is what inevitably happens, and again, is back in the day, in the dot-com day, when I worked over in that era, and today now, where I see people giving me, I work for a startup, and my boss was really yelling at me. He was a total dick, and I really do mean that. He was a dick, and I was working hard, and I was working weekends, and then they fired me, without fail, every one of those stories, guess what happens? The company goes bankrupt in 6 months to a year. Now, what that tells you is that it was not your fault. You were going to get laid off anyway, by the way, too. I can guarantee you what it was is it had nothing to do with your incompetence, because there was no competence. It had nothing to do with your work ethic or the quality of your work. It was that there was no money. The leadership and management of that company, the captains, the officers of that ship, have piloted the ship into dangerous waters, and now it's getting hit by icebergs left and right. That ship was sinking long ago because the captain said, go that way, everyone went that way. Or the captain was drunk, captain just wasn't around, and everyone was like, what do we do? I don't know. So when your company goes bankrupt, when these startups go bankrupt, not only is that a risk that you go work for one and all of a sudden it fails and now you got to go find a job again. It's to understand that when you go work for a startup, you are usually going into a psychotic environment headed up by a megalomaniac, an egomaniac, and the true damage you're going to take out of that is going to be the black mark on your resume. And if you're not aware or savvy and you're not confident enough in your abilities, you're going to think there's something tragically wrong with you when that is not the case. Right? So here, what do? Cappy, what do we do? But what if it could become the next Google? What if this girl is the one that has her degree in chemical engineering with big bazoos and red hair and long legs and likes to hike and ride motorcycles and is independently? Yeah, it could be. I'm just going to assume it's not, though. So here's what you want to do. Swear to God, when I get my own office, there's going to be no noise. So here's what the old captain recommends. When you are coming out of college, you need to get a good year to 2, preferably 3 years of experience on your resume. All right? You're not going to get experience that you want. You're not going to be challenged at a large, stable company. You're going to do this very precise thing that one cog does, and that's all you do. In terms of employability, you will then be afraid, well, wait, I didn't get experience. I didn't become a full stack developer. Whoa. Doesn't matter in the corporate world. All the corporate world does is they look and they see he had 3 years. She had 2 years. They did this. And this is where you, what's the word I'm looking for? You embellish on your resume like everyone does. Nobody is getting the work experience that they're perfectly capable of doing out there. That's not how large, efficient, profitable, and stable companies work. You do this one thing, you do it over and over and over again, and we got other people that do all those other things that you want to do and you're capable of doing, but you're going to do this one thing. And then while you're working at this company, you try and pick up little side projects. You offer to go work on a project that you like. You offer to help out. And if you're tuning into this channel, again, not to kiss your ass, you're probably smarter than the average bear, right? Get most of your work done in 2 to 3 hours anyway. You have a lot of extra time to go and offer your skills to other places. And you get a touch of experience in that. If that doesn't work, you go online, you teach yourself, you train at home. One time I was teaching myself SQL, like searching databases and all that. I put SQL on my resume, right? You're not going to get the experience through work. Not at these large corporations anyway. You're going there to get money, to pay off your student loans, and to start a good, solid resume. Because when they see years, that's experience. Even if you were sitting there with your thumb up your ass, that's experience in the world of HR and computer analyzing software, your resume. You then need to go out and get your own skills, predominantly through self-teaching. And then you put that down in the skills that people are looking for. If you have extra time at work, they're just sitting there, go online and teach yourself SQL. And then your boss comes in, what are you doing learning Python? I'm like, well, I'm trying to increase my skill level here so that I could potentially work on this project. I thought I told you to work on the Jones account. It's done. Ah! That's the sound baby boomer bosses make when you capture them, you catch them in the lie, and then they yell at you. We don't pay you to do that. Yeah, but I already did that, and it's done. Now what do you want me to do? Go file a fax. There's lots of others. I don't have time to pay you to goof around. I don't have any IRA retirement money. I gotta work till I'm 73 and no one can get promoted because I pissed away my money on a boat. Every boomer ever. So, what I'm saying, the larger point, the strategy for getting out of college, your early embryonic career, stable, boring, reliable employer. Your work is going to suck. It's going to be boring. Doesn't matter. Knock out your 2 to 3 years. Again, unless your boss is a true sadist or a psychopath. Okay, we got the Clary job test. I just created that. You can look at how to tell if your job is good or not, or title similar to that. You get your 2 to 3 years. Right? You're not even there for the experience. You're just there for that number, 2 to 3 years. Got on a resume, whatever the boss wants. Yes, boss. Okay, boss. Yep. Let's go sing the Doors song again and do some pot, because that's what apparently leadership skills are. And then on the underground, put it in here and there. You teach yourself getting yourself skills on your own. Put those skills down, and then you have 2 years experience in SQL. You have 3 years experience in this. You work on projects. You get that on outside of work. So that when you then, oh, look, here's Bob. How many times have you said this? Entry-level position, 2 to 3 years experience required. It's like, oh, I hate HR. Well, that's how you play that game. You get your 2 to 3 years experience. Not really experience. And then you get like some basics, your feet, and what you want to do on your own time. And then you apply for jobs. And then maybe you think about a startup. I still won't even be going with a startup. But then you get that experience, put on your resume. Someone hires you to be, again, R programmer or whatever. And you're like, oh crap, now I better really, really, really learn R. And then you're like, okay, I could start in 3 weeks. Let me get my 2 weeks notice. I have vacation tomorrow, no more than a month. And then that month you just study the hell out of that. You become an expert in it. And the truth is, you'll do. In that month of hard stuff, like, I know this may sound weird, but it is perfectly analogous to this. I got a call one time from community dad. He used to teach ballroom dance. And I was pretty much one of the preeminent swing dance instructors in the Twin Cities area. And then one of the main guys, old guy, he retired. He was like 80-some years old. And he taught ballroom, Latin, and salsa. Like, he had 3 different types of dances that he taught, whereas I basically just taught one. Also, I was getting calls from all these different departments saying, hey, can you teach this? Can you teach this? Can you teach this? And I'm like, well, don't you have anyone else? Like, no, there's no one else. I'm like, in the entire Twin Cities, there's nobody else. So, in 1 month time, I taught myself salsa dancing, tango, cha-cha, merengue, waltz, foxtrot, and that's all I did. I worked my daytime job, and I just go dancing. And I learned enough that I could certainly teach beginners. And then over time, I actually became quite good at many of them. Although, what was the one? I never became really good at waltz. Waltz is so boring. This is so boring. My point is, if you dedicate 1 month to study, hardcore study, full-time study to something, you can master it. You can master it. And then they won't be able to call your bluff because you'll walk in, you'll be this amazing ACL statement programmer. And they're like, oh yeah, we gotta really look, he's got 3 years experience. Meanwhile, you're like twiddling your thumbs those 3 years. So anyway, that is why you should not be working for startups. I would not work for a startup ever. I would consult a startup. I would contract, say I'll contract, but I get to work from home. I got this. I got a full-time job. I got this. I'll consult you. I'll contract for you, but you never work solely. Have your only gig be at a startup, because so few of them offer reliable, stable employability. And I said this before in another video. I'm going to say it again. If they say ground floor during the interview, and we could pay you in equity. When they offer to pay you in equity, they'll say, in lieu of a higher salary or a market salary, say, you know, the salary's not that great. We can't afford it right now, but we'll give you equity in the company. If they say either that, we'll give you equity in the company in lieu of payment, or get on the ground floor, you run. You run. That's no different than a girl saying herpes or a guy saying gonorrhea. You run. Right? Because it means the cash flow isn't there. It means that they're trying to, you got a megalomaniac, egomaniac, narcissist as a CEO trying to play make-believe president and CEO, right? Okay, good. If this helps, send it to other people you like, other millennials, and now I guess the Gen Zers are coming online. They're maybe potentially going to graduate. And then also check out the Older Brother podcast, where me and a bunch of old fart Gen Xers yell and scream at the younger generations, and maybe there's some advice that we impart in there as well. Check out olderbrother.com. Go to assholeconsulting.com if you have a specific question specific to your situation. It is not free. It is not free, my good boys and girls. No, it is not. It is not like college or high school or kindergarten or your mommy and daddy. It is the real world. Maybe the first time you introduced yourself to it. You will pay. And I strongly recommend you consult or hire me out to consult you, because for the $25 email on average, or $35 video on average, that can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars of mistakes, lost decades of time, and wasted life. For example, many of you have worthless degrees. How much would you have paid 4 or 5 years ago to have me tell you, don't major in English, don't major in sociology? What would you have paid? And you'll find out that a $35 video consultation and $25 email consultation is cheap-ass insurance. All right, that's it, kids. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.